Okay, so with question 7, they give us just one angle and two sides. So we need to be careful. Sometimes with two sides and an angle, you use law of cosines if it's side angle side. And then sometimes you use law of sines if it's side side angle. So if you're not sure which one this is, again, sketch a quick little triangle. Doesn't need to be to scale. And then pick one of the things you know, like this side length, and then just imagine you start walking around your triangle. You have a side, the next thing you have is a side, and then finally you have an angle. This is the side angle ambiguous case. So the good news for you is that when we put this on there as a question or two, it'll only be there as a bonus question. Now you should be able to know that this is law of sines. That's not really the ambiguous case, but using it is the ambiguous case. So when we did this, one thing I suggested to you to help some of that information stick, we did that big flow chart, which I think is helpful, but we also tried to sketch these the same way every time, where we put angle A here, side B here, and then side A has to be opposite angle A, but since we don't know this angle, this is what's a lot of people call the swinging side. And so for side angle, you have to think about, well, what type of angle is given to me? If it's a right angle, it's not very interesting. You can just use stuff from last semester. If it's an obtuse angle and the numbers make sense, you have one triangle, plug them into the law of sines, get your answer. And if the numbers don't make sense, you get 0 triangles. Plug the numbers in the law of sines if you want to, but your calculator's going to throw out an error because that doesn't make sense. And then finally, if this is an acute angle, you first need to check if A is greater than or equal to B, because that would be one triangle. And if that is not true, you need to compare A to H. How does this swinging side compare to the most direct path, the height, which is perpendicular? So you've got a little right triangle here, so you've got an acute angle, you want to know the opposite side, you know the hypotenuse, you should be able to solve for H here with the stuff we did last semester. But it will also always be B times the sine of A for these question types. So you actually have to go to your calculator, ask it what is B times the sine of A, and it says the height is about 32.5. So if this length is 32.5, in comparison, 49 is definitely bigger, so it can't go straight down, it would stick too far back here. It's got to either fold out to make this triangle in black, or it could fold in and make this triangle in red. So that tells me angle B should have 2 answers. Angle B could be here or it could be there. Now, that doesn't change how I'm going to use the law of sines. Law of sines still says the sine of B over the length of B is equal to the sine of A over the length of A. Multiply both sides by 54. You're welcome to throw this in the calculator if you want to, but it's going to be a really small number. This is not the size of angle B, it's the sine of B. So even though I tried to emphasize this for you guys on your notes last week, that was still a real common thing there. So inverse sine of 54 sine of 37 degrees over 49. And that tells me that angle B is 41.546 degrees. Now, with this ambiguous case, and part of what makes it a pain, and part of why they don't put it on the ACT, because it takes too long, and so why we're not going to reduce your grade for this. It would only show up as a bonus. Having the wherewithal to know that there's a second possibility for angle B, but you have to know how to find the second possibility. This law of sines formula is only set up to find you this acute angle, the acute possibility of angle B. But there's an obtuse version as well. So this one is always its supplement, so 180 minus the other one. So 138.454 is where the second angle should come from. So, understanding why that's law of sines instead of law of cosines, definitely fair game for the test. Knowing when to use each of them is important. As far as knowing why there's two triangles, that's the ambiguous case. That would only show up as bonus. Understanding that the law of sines only gives you the first angle and knowing how to find the second angle would also only show up as bonus. And every year before this one, it's always been required, and it's still one of the best tests of the whole semester. So y'all could certainly do it. I'm not discouraging you from doing it. It's important enough that we showed it to you, and it basically ended up having us take an extra day in this unit. But you need to make sure that you're good with all the other material first.